Hi friends, hello, happy Thursday. Welcome to Craft Your Joy Live. I'm super excited to be here today. I have a really fun card project. It's been a week. It's not even Friday yet. So I bumped my live from Friday to today because Friday is Good Friday and we're heading into the Easter weekend. So I thought it would be a good idea to bump it. So I'm super excited to see everybody popping in. I see Joanne, Rhonda, Sue, Cherie, Kathy. Hey, hello. Kathy's back from vacation and ready to make some cards. Hi, Gloria. Hello, everybody. Okay, so this week I had a brand new stamp set released with Gina K Designs called Speak Beautiful Things. And you all were so kind as to sell out that set. So super excited. Those sets have been reordered. If you are interested in it and didn't get the set at the launch, no worries. You can get on the wait list and they'll send the set. You can order, they'll let you know. Gina K will let you know when the stamps have come back in. And she said it'll be about a week, I think she said. So I see more people popping in. Hi, Kathleen, Sandy, Nancy, whoo, Kendra. Kendra, hi from Germany. Hello. Hello. Dawn and Diane. Oh, it's so good to see everybody popping in. Okay. I have a really fun card today. Super whimsical. Super whimsical card. And I'm doing a stamp set mashup. So I guess we should just dive in. Let's dive in and let's talk about the supplies. Also, all of the supplies are linked down below in the description here in YouTube and on Facebook. If you're watching live on Facebook, I think most people watch live on YouTube, but sometimes I have it streaming over in Facebook as well. Okay, let's go ahead to the down camera. I'm going to walk through the supplies. I'm mashing up 2 stamp sets today and a really fun die set from Gina K. Okay, let's go ahead and take a peek at the supplies. So here is Speak Beautiful Things, and here is the Grow Through stamp set. Yay! We're going to be mashing these 2 stamp sets up today, and we're going to be dialing up the whimsy even more and using this new die set from Gina K. I need to get my glasses off so I can see. This new die set called Lots of Dots, and I am digging it. I'm so excited that got sent to me because I'm using it in today's card project. So let's go ahead and dive in. Here is the inspiration for the card. So if you watched the live, you saw this. This is one of my cards that I shared as inspiration on the live. And I really liked pairing up this big honkin' flower with the abstract elements that are in the Grow Through stamp set. But I wanted to take it a step further, and we're going to do some watercoloring today too, and add that Lots of Dots stamp set to Lots of Dots die to really kind of dial up the whimsy and go with the polka in the Speak Beautiful Things stamp set, and do a really fun whimsical flower for spring. Also, these colors are super pastel-y, which I don't usually do, but I'm digging it. So this is what we're going to do today, or some kind of version of it. Let's see how it goes. So let's go ahead and move. Let's see, we'll move the cards over here. Move the cards up here. Okay, so I see more people popping in. Hi, Geraldine. Oh, hello. She said, I'm not even surprised your set sold out. I am. I'm always surprised. I'm always shocked and surprised. Because here's the reason. I'm going to pop back to the front camera real quick. So here's the reason why I get surprised. Because I work on, all of the illustrators at Gina K, we work on our stamp sets 6 to 8 months in advance because of manufacturing and all of those wonderful things. And also to make sure that we're all creating stamps that go well in the collection. So when I created that, I was really excited about it. So when we get at launch time, I get to revisit that excitement all over again. And I never just really know if if everyone else is going to be as excited as me or, maybe not. So that's just kind of one of the things. That's why it blows me away when those sets sell out. It just means a lot to me, and you're supporting all of us. All of you are supporting all of us, so it's kind of amazing. Hello, Joanne. Oh, hi, Cheryl. She's here. Hello. Okay, back to the supplies. So I am using some Strathmore Ready Cut watercolor. If you're, most of you are not new to the channel, you know that I like to use this 500 series cold press Strathmore Ready Cut watercolor for my paper crafting and watercolor projects. So we're using that today. I've got a piece of Gina K Designs layering white cardstock. I'm using Innocent Pink cardstock cut to an A2 size. And I've already showed the stamp set, so let's go ahead and move those to the side. And my inks today, actually, I've got lots of different things here. So I've got my inks and I've got watercolor that we're going to be using. So I've got some watercolor here, and I'll be walking through that when we go to start to do that. I've got some Gina K Amalgam in Obsidian. That's the color I usually use for my black. But thank you, Gloria. Gloria said, love all of your stamp sets. Thank you so much. And if you're new here and new to my stamp sets, all of my stamp sets coordinate with each other. They are in proportion to each other. So on this channel, I do a lot of stamp set mashups where I'm mashing them up with each other so you can see how they work together. Okay. The inks I'm using today are Wild Dandelion, Lovely Lavender, Passionate Pink, and Innocent Pink from Gina K Designs. And then these are the colors that I'm using for watercoloring. So if you're going to do this and grab some watercolor from your stash, these are the names of the watercolor, but remember, it's just like a brownish gold, a pink, a yellow, a greenish gold, and this is called Paraline Green. It's more of a dark, dark green. So you could pull those from your stash. I will hold this right here in case anybody wants to take a quick screenshot of the colors. And there you go. Okay, so let's get started. We are going to have a little bit of a watercolor lesson. I've already pre-stamped the big honkin' chamomile flower out, and but that's okay. We're going to do a little watercolor lesson. But first, let's get started with the excuse me. Let's get started with our pastel-y colors. I've got Lovely Lavender, Wild Dandelion, and Innocent Pink. And I'm a left-hander, so I'm going to put them over on this side so that we can all see a little bit better. Nancy said, oh no, I didn't buy the dots. They're still available, so don't worry, Nancy, but they're really fun. So, take a peek today when we do the card today and see if you even like them. I really like them just because they are, they just are good. You can die cut into things with them. So see how when a die has an outer edge like that, that means it's going to cut the outer edge. But see how these dies only have cuts where the circles are. That means you can cut these images into something, which makes it super fun. Super fun. Okay, we are going to go, I am going to do some Rogue free range stamping. I'm not getting my Misty out. I thought about it, but I changed my mind. So we're going to start by doing the abstract elements to build the base of the card. And then I'm going to run that dots through the die cutter. We're just going to get that base ready to go. And then we're going to move to the watercolor lesson. Okay, so I'm inking up the big honkin' stamp that's in Grow Through. And this is a corner abstract stamp. And it's really fun. I'm going to show you. I'm just inking it up really good. And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp it down, but you can see I'm going off of the edge of the paper. Off of the edge of the paper here. I'm going to turn this sideways just so I can get some leverage and then just stamp that down. I'm going to leave that be. I'm going to let that fill in a little bit. with the inks. If it doesn't fill in, I'll stamp over it again. Okay, let's go ahead and clean this up. So the thing about the inks, the Gina K inks, is a lot of times the ink will fill in. And McCathy just said, just that one card with the dots convinced me. I know, it is striking, isn't it? All right, I'm going to grab the bottom piece. Now, if you want to do these in your MISTI, then you can stamp them several times and get that impression. You're like super, super solid, but I'm going rogue today. I'm probably going to end up coming back to that one. Okay, so here is the other corner piece, and this is wild dandelion, and I'm just going to stamp it off of the edge a little bit. Give it some nice, good pressure. And there, I got a nice impression with that one. Digging it. Okay, just cleaning that one off real quick. Now here is the other abstract stamp that's going to help kind of complete this. And we're going to do this. Oops, I want it to go this way. Sorry about that. There's so many different ways that you could stamp this out. I'm going to bring this lovely lavender over here. I'm going to turn the card sideways. Look at that, I got a little bit of rogue yellow happening right there. Turn the card sideways, get some nice, lovely lavender on here. And then I'm going off the edge of the card. I'm going to give it a nice push. Digging it. Love. Okay. Love, 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 love. Now, these three stamps in the Grow Through set have lots of different combinations that you can do just by turning them 365 degrees or 45 degrees. You've got lots of different options. So they're really fun for creating interesting backgrounds. Now, look at me, because I went and did that rogue stamping. We're going to come back in. I can hear some of my friends now. You should have used the MISTI. I probably should have. But you know, I kind of wanted to focus on the watercolor today because that's what we do here, right? Okay, I'm just going to ink this back up again. And then I'm going to just go over where I was and just give it another hit of color. And because of the clear stamps, you can do that pretty easily. All right, we're going to let it ride. Let it ride, let it ride. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and take that one off. Now, the dots. This is the fun part. Now, I've already done a little bit of pre-cutting so that we can move along and stay within our hour, and also do our watercolor lesson. Sue says, I like the mottled pink section, but look at it. Over time, it's going to smooth out because that's the beautiful thing about the paper. Now, I'm going to take this die, the Lots of Dots die. I'm going to put it right there, and then I'm going to put it right here. Okay? And when I run that through my die cutter, now I'm going to be very honest, I've already run this through the die cutter, but I want to show you. When I run that through the die cutter, look what happens. First of all, you end up with all of those dots, so they're fun for confetti, or like me right now, they're all over my studio floor, so super fun, right? But the way it cuts out, look at that. It cuts out the inside. It doesn't cut the whole piece out. You just get those dots. And I like it because it's creating this shape for us for when we put the flower in. It's also working with these three abstract pieces, and it's dialing up the whimsy. Whimsy, whimsy, whimsy. Okay, I'm going to move the dots. I'm saving you from watching me do the die cutting. Geraldine said, no harm in winging it. It's that watercolor mentality. It's true. It's very true. Okay, so here's our base. We're going to set this aside and hopefully not booger it up, right? Set it aside, and let's bring in our watercolor base and our watercolor paints. So we are going to be doing some washy watercolor. See how everything's just going to blend and bleed and pull together and just kind of look washy. So the reason why I love that is because we've got, we've got these solids here. We've got our dots that are creating some whimsical texture and kind of keeping our eye going round in the circle. And then we have this big honking chamomile flower here in a whimsical pink color. So let's go for it. We're going in. I've got some water here. Let's see, I got a little towel. Gonna need that. Oh, I just got that whole thing wet, so that's no good. Okay, and I'm gonna bring in my paints. So I've got those paints that we talked about, those colors here. Let's move the water over there. I don't know why I did that on the side like that. I'm gonna have to turn it like this, but I'm going to be using these colors and predominantly using that permanent rose pink. Now, permanent rose is a very common name for watercolor. You'll also see the name rose or quinacridone rose, like lots of different rose colors, but I really like it because it's that super whimsical pink. I've got two brushes here. One that is, wow, look, I've used it so much you can't even see it anymore, but it's a number 6. It's starting to get up there. It's starting to get up there in age, but it still works. And I have this number 3 round, which I don't think I'm going to use. Now, the difference between these brushes are, this is a Princeton Heritage. This is a silver black velvet. You can see how old it is because it's starting to fade. This is a very thirsty, thirsty brush. So it takes a lot of water. And this one is not as thirsty. So I brought both of them out. Geraldine's making some chamomile tea. Oh, I love chamomile tea in the evening. Now we're going to work on these petals, and we're going to work on each one of them individually. I need to make some room here. I need to take a little bit of water. Let's just kind of get a little water on my watercolor here and activate them. These paints, I know I'm going to get asked that color. I'm going to get asked about the brand. You could use whatever brand of watercolor you want in those colors. Okay, it'll work just great. The paints I'm using today are from Da Vinci. It's a California, USA based company. I just love their colors because they're very, very bright and transparent, but I haven't found a watercolor out there that I don't love, And if you've been on this channel, many of you have been following me for a long time, I use a lot of different watercolors. Also, friends, I have the window open in my studio, and you're going to hear noises like birds and maybe an occasional car going by. But it is too beautiful outside. It's actually really humid and in Maryland, and the temperature's been pretty high because we're getting a big thunderstorm coming. So very strange weather. Spring has sprung. Okay, we're going in. My brush is wet. My paper is dry, and I'm actually just going to start painting in wet, just water, on every other petal. I'm going to work 2 petals at a time, and I'm leaving room. I'm leaving some of that paper. Let's just go in and start dropping in some color, wet into wet. I'm leaving some of the paper showing. Now, I stamped the chamomile out in Innocent Pink. And that color is, the Innocent Pink is just going to fade away over time. So you see I'm dropping in this color really where the water is, but not letting, I've got like some of the paper showing through. So I'm only putting water in the petals in a couple places. My brush is super wet. Super wet. Okay. I could see everybody in the chat. Ooh, Cheryl had a really good idea about that dots. The dots die. Cheryl said the dot from the die can be used for shaker cards, especially when in a metallic or glitter paper. Heck yeah, it can. I'm shaker card challenged. For some reason, I just make a hot mess. every time I try it. You can see I'm just dropping in some of that color. I'm going to clean off my brush. And this brush is super wet. And I'm just going to work on my next petal. And I'm just adding in a little bit of water. This technique, for those of you, many of you, all of you, I recognize a lot of our names here, have been with me for a while. This is wet into wet. The brush is wet. The paper is dry. I need some more. I need some more. And I'm just dropping in the watercolor into the wet areas. So I call this washy watercoloring because it's very easy going, and watercolor is only going to go where the water is. And I love I'm leaving the white of the paper. I'm resisting the urge to do what I call a smoothie blend, where I'm blending out the colors, because that white of the paper is going to add a little bit more texture to the whole project. So let's go ahead and turn this. Let's see, I'm painting with my water, and it's kind of humid. There's a nice breeze coming in, so I'm working kind of quickly so my paper doesn't dry because of the breeze coming in. You gotta love spring, right? Just dropping it in, dropping it in. Everybody's sharing about the shaker cards and what paper are you using. So I got this question. I'm using Strathmore Ready Cut Watercolor. Where I laid it. Strathmore Ready Cut Watercolor. This is 100% cotton paper. Here it is. This is what I like to use for my paper crafting projects because it likes to take wet washes. It'll take a lot of water. Okay, I've worked my way around. Now I'm just going to come in and start working on the other petals and try not to touch the adjacent petal. But you can see I just did. I just touched it, but who cares? It's fine. Just going to drop this in. Now, this style of watercolor is super easy. It's very washy, easy for you all to do. Very easy for you to do. And very forgiving because we're just dropping waters into petals. I'm not worrying about lights and darks and all the things. Just dropping color in. Watercolor dropping, wet into wet. Kind of digging that. Digging it. Okay. Come into this big honking petal over here, and you can see my brush is a little tinged pink because of my paint water. Look at my paint water. How pretty is that? It's like an Easter egg. Easter eggs. Okay. Let's pop some of that color in there and just kind of coax it around into the areas. Oh, I'm digging this. Digging it. Okay. Oh, I need to get my brush wet. Oops. Brush wet, add a little more water here. Just kind of doing what I call brush dancing, and that's where I'm kind of going back and forth with the water, dancing the brush around, resisting the urge to do smoothie blends, just doing a little flicking here, flicking the brush. Now drop the watercolor in. Woohoo! Okay, friends, look at that. Loving that. Loving that. So you can see the petal formations, and we also get some of that white from the paper, which makes it just pretty, pretty, pretty. Just kind of gives it that extra texture and dimension. Okay. Just dropping a little bit more in a couple of other places where I feel like it might have gotten light. I've talked about this many times before, but when watercolor dries, it shifts back a little bit. It doesn't matter what brand you're working with, it shifts back, and it'll it'll not look as vibrant as it does when your paper is wet. I'm going to take a little bit of the yellow, mixing a little, and I'm going to just pop a little yellow into the leaves and just let it do its thing. And this is just going to kind of brighten up that pink and let it get really, like, give us that whimsical look that we're looking for. And it really does go, like, it's a nice contrast to the wild dandelion that we have in the base. Sue just said that's the hard part for me, leaving the white and those little streaks. Yes, just resist the urge to smoothie blend it out and let it do its thing. I'm going to let this air dry. We're going to move on to the petals. I'm going to do an interesting little mix of colors with the petals. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just getting it wet. I'm going to try my best not to touch the pink, but that's okay if I do. And you can see I'm just adding in a little bit. Now this is the perylene green. This is a green that has like some black in it. So it's a really, really dark, dark green. Okay, let's go ahead in here. Kathy just shared, right? That's the challenge with watercolor. Leaving the whites. And you don't have to. If you want it to be more of a smoothie blend, go for it. I'm just doing this wet, washy kind of look. I'm just kind of letting it do its thing. Look at that green. I am going to dial that back a little bit, but don't worry, because we're going to add a little bit of that green gold to it. We're going to do a little bit of color mixing. Okay, I need a little bit more. And after a while, you can see that your brush starts to get, the water gets tinged that color, so it does help you see where you're painting. And I'm just coaxing this perylene green around. I love this perylene green or this dark green. Like I said, it's got a black pigment in it. So it's a really dark green, and when it dries, it's got some character to it. Okay. Geraldine said, you really do make it look easy. Very non-threatening for those who want to be artists. Hey, we're all artists, Geraldine. We're all artists. Anytime that you are picking up anything, craft-wise, baking, all the things, and you're doing something with your hands, that's an artisan thing to do. So, and with watercolor, it just takes practice, because it can be so mysterious sometimes. But my favorite with the wet into wet is that you just let the water do its thing. I'm doing that stem right now. Pick up some of that perylene green and let that just kind of drop in. It's a pretty intense area of color, so I'm just going to let that drop in a little bit. Hi, Ruth. Ruth says, I'm new here. This flower is knocking my socks off. It's fun. Look, and it's kind of wet. It's washy. I'm letting the watercolor dry and bloom. So when the watercolor dries and it's not super smooth and it does these like whooshy kind of effects, like right here, it's called blooming. And it's really, if you can resist the urge to try to clean it up, it's really, really fun. Okay, now I want to add a little bit of the green gold color in here, but I've got a lot going on here with the darks. So what I'm going to do is, my brush is clean, and we've done this technique on the channel before. I'm going to lift some of that out, some of the spots that are a little intense. Lift out that color with my brush. So I'm just taking some of that pigment off of the petals. And I'm going to come in with this green gold. I just shot myself with water. Just shot myself in the face with some water. Okay, and I'm just going to drop this green gold in the tips. And this is still kind of wet, so I'm just going to drop this in. and let it do its thing. I'm digging it, and let it do its thing. Yes, Dawn says blooming is appropriate for flowers. Sue said Sue just shared I like the yellow highlights. Oh, Joanne, that's so very sweet. She said that's why I follow Lisa, because she's gentle with us. I'm very, very gentle. Very, very gentle. That's my teaching style. Very, very gentle. Okay, now I am going to bring in the heat tool, and we're going to just kind of dry this and see what happens. So this might get a little bit loud. Usually the microphone adjusts for the sound of the heat tool, but hey, you never know. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I am just drying. Oh, look at that. I like bled that right into it. I'm just drying the hot spots because we're going to do some stamping over top. Just getting it nice and dry. And then you're going to really see how that color is shifting back. And we're going to really see the blooms. Okay, Joanne just asked, describe lifting, please. I will do that. So see the colors? See all the blooms and see how everything is kind of blooming. I'm digging this. Now, you know, if I was doing a larger painting or something like that, I'd probably want to work on that a little bit. But I'm not doing that today. So we're going to leave this the way it is. Now I'm going to show blooming real quick, that technique. So here's some perylene green. And see how intense that color is? Now, if I want to take away some color when I'm painting, you're just going to clean off your brush, make sure it's nice and clean, and then you're able to lift away that color, lift away some of that pigment, just simply with your brush. Now this becomes a very great, like a very nice technique for A, removing color where you don't want it, B, adding a little bit of texture to something. But that's what lifting is. I hope that helped, Joanne. Okay, lifting it away. And I was lifting it away in here because I wanted to add some of that green gold. I wanted that green gold to kind of blend really nicely. Okay, now let's go ahead in. We're going to paint the center. I'm going to get it a little bit wet. Just kind of coming around, just doing a little washy. And I'm going to come in with this Hansa yellow. Let's pull that into the screen a little bit so you can see my yellow. And I'm just going to drop that in a little bit. Yes, Kathy, you are right. Watercolor is very versatile. It's very forgiving. I think it gets, it feels intimidating to some because it just goes with the flow. But remember, watercolor only goes where the water is. Okay, so we have shifted back quite a bit. You can see how light some things are. I'm just going to come in with a little bit of that permanent rose, and I'm just going to add a little bit of it back in. Just adding a little bit of it back in, and then I'll just kind of hit it with some water and blend it out a little bit, just to dial up the luminosity. So this technique is called glazing. So whenever you are adding another layer on top of something, it's called glazing or layering. You can call it layering. You don't have to use all the fancy. I don't feel like you should. You have to. I feel like once you learn the technique, you can call it whatever you want. Okay, so just adding a little bit of that color back in. Okay, now I want to, Ruth just says, oh, good question, Ruth. Let me pop that up. Let's see if I can pop that up. Okay, can you lift after it's dried, like re-wet and lift? In some cases, yes, you can. It depends on, I'll show you. I'll just heat this up. It depends on the intensity of that pigment. You can always move color. Let's get that nice and dry. So that perylene green is really intense, super intense. Now I can get it most watercolors, now Inktense doesn't reactivate. We've talked about Inktense on this channel, but watercolors will reactivate. So it's dry. You can see I'm getting it to move again. So I can come in and I can do some lifting, and it really does depend on your pigment. This is a really dark pigment, but you can see I'm getting it to move again. I reactivated it. That's the beautiful thing about like these are paints that are in a pan, but if you have paints that are in a tube and you're putting them in a palette like this, you could just let that dry and you can come back to it and you just add water and reactivate it. That's what I love about watercolor, because you need very, very little to actually have some fun with it. You don't need a ton of watercolor. You don't need 50 zillion sets like I do, or a whole big honking 6 drawers of it like I do. You don't. You just need like one set of colors that you like, and it's very, very forgiving, and it also just isn't very transportable, and you can fill up your you can fill up your pans again, and it just lasts a long time. These pans last a really long time. All right, I'm taking my brush and I'm just kind of like dabbing it into that Quin Gold, and I'm going to drop that quinacridone gold. Was it Quin Gold? Yeah. Quinacridone gold on the stamp in the Speak Beautiful Things set. That's the dots for the center. I'm just going to stamp that down right there and let that do its thing. It's going to be mooshy. It's going to be mooshy, but that's okay. I'm going to let it moosh and just add a little extra character. If I wanted to lift some, if I didn't want it to be too mooshy, see, I could just take my clean brush and lift some of it out, which I think I will, just a little bit. When it dries, it's gonna fade back significantly. All right, I'm gonna take that same stamp, and now we're gonna dial up the whimsy. I'm gonna move my watercolor out and bring in Passionate Pink. Okay, and we're gonna just take the Passionate Pink and stamp these blooms. Just adding this dot pattern. Let's do 2. Let's go right there to the blooms. Love! And it really just dials up the whimsy. Let's see. Do I want to do one back here? I think I want to do one back here. And just let the rest of them go rogue. Cleaning that up. We're going to use that dot again in our backgrounder. Oh, I'm so digging it. Okay, now I'm going to take this and run this through the die cutter. Love it. Hello, Heidi. Great to see you. That big honkin' die. I'm going to run that through the die cutter. And then I'm going to bring in the cut. I have done it twice, friends, so that we can keep things moving along. But look at that. Now I got a twofer. Okay, run that through the die cutter. And then, loving this. Loving those color blends. So see how when I talked about those colors bleeding into each other? Ah! That die is so fun. Anyway, very fun. Okay, now we're going to bring in our card. We're doing like really great on time. We're going to bring in our card base that we did. We've got our dots. And I'm going to go ahead and glue that down. Then we're going to add this piece on top. Oh, then we're going to do, yeah, getting ahead of myself. So let's go ahead. Now, if you have any other questions about the watercolor, let me know. Lisa just said, hi, Lisa. She just shared. The stamp dots really make the petals pop. They do. And it just kind of goes with the dots, the lots of dots that we're doing right here. And it just dials up that whimsy. So when I did it on this one, this sample, look at that. I did a lot of dots. And then we're going to add those dots there too. That really just dials up that whimsy. Makes it a super whimsical card, kind of fun for spring. Gloria just shared, what I like with watercolor is that every flower will be slightly different. Yes, with this technique, every flower is completely different, right? Completely different. Some are lights, some are darks. We've got that yellow kind of bleeding into our pinks. Look, we've got greens bleeding in here and here. And look, I'm going to bring this up real close. So look at the perylene green and the quinacridone gold. Do you see that texture? Those are granulating pigments. That means that when the water hits the pigments don't dissolve. They stay a little like the coarse, and you can see them. And I just love the way that works. Dawn just shared. Oh, Dawn, really good question. Do you have separate water vessels for clean water and rinse? Normally, I do. But today, so yes, normally I would have one that's clean and one that's dirty. But look, I kind of didn't do it this time. But normally if I'm working on something, I'll have two glasses, one clean, one dirty. So it keeps me from contaminating, like, for example, yellows. Like if I'm in my pink and I go into my yellow, my brush is not clean, it's going to kind of booger it up a little bit. Sometimes I don't mind, sometimes I don't care. But today I just kind of went rogue. Okay, now the next thing that we're going to do, everybody's saying love the texture. That's what I love about watercolor, is because pigments granulate and they give you all that extra texture and dimension. And look at all that it adds to that stamped project. All that blooming, all that washy watercolor. All right, I need a big honkin', let's see, I need a block. I need a big block. What did I do with my big block? Oh, here it is. Okay. I need a much bigger block. You're welcome, Dawn. For this is the squiggly line that is in the grow through set. We're going to pop this and see how it'll just going to go up and around. I'm going to turn it. I've got lots of different ways I could turn this. I think I want, so here's my, I want quite a bit of it to show, as much of it to show as I can possibly get, and it's going to kind of bleed off the edge a little. I kind of like it. Let's leave it there. We're going to stamp it that way. Boom. Let's take a little bit of Passionate Pink, ink this up. Geraldine shared, love the textural effects of the completed image. Yes. That organic look, that's that washy, wet into wet watercolor. It's not like super, what I call super smoothie blends. Just going to stamp that down so it's kind of running off the edges a little bit. Love that. So we've got a lot going on here. Let's take a peek. Let's move this. We've got our background pieces right here with our colors, right? So our abstract pieces, we've got the dots going on that are really kind of dialing up the whimsy. And then we're coming across the card with this squiggly. So the whole thing has got this whimsical, right out of the gate, before we even add the flower. It's got this whimsical abstract kind of feel to it. So let's go ahead. I'm going to pop on the flower. Then we're going to work on some dots and then the sentiment. Okay. Ah, I see you all chatting in the chat about how to tag someone when you're commenting. Yeah, it's use the @ sign and then their name. It depends. Like if you're on a mobile phone or you're on an iPad, it's a little bit different than a desktop in the chat. So I've got some foam dots here. Some foam squares. Love using these. Let's just go ahead and pop a few down. Now the big challenge with me and the foam squares is getting the little paper off. Yeah, I'm doing it today. I'm tweezer challenged, so I don't usually bring in tweezers. I usually just struggle to get my paper off because I don't take good care of my fingernails, so I don't have, sometimes I do, but my hands are always in paint and stuff, so I don't always take good care. This one is just being a booger. There we go. Okay. Let me get my finger underneath that piece of paper there. Joanne said, sorry. Sorry about. No need to be sorry. Oh, yeah. The pick tool. I do have the pick tool. Oh, you guys, let me know if you think. Ooh, I didn't plan to put any gems on this, but maybe we should. Okay, I'm going to lay this right here. And I'm trying to decide, do I want to turn it a little bit? I want to see that. So, and I'm going to let that flower just kind of hang off the edge a little bit, like it's lying above it. So we're just going to, I'm committing. Commit. It's down. Committed. Okay. I'm committed. That sounded funny to me. All right, I'm going to take a little bit of the wild dandelion, and we're just going to add some dots. I think that's why I didn't add any gems, because I don't think it needs it. Because we're adding like these dots going around the flower and kind of bringing in those dots here. We've got these dots here. We got these dots here. I think it's a lot. I don't know. Tell me. Tell me what you think. Sue just said, Lisa, you need to get that big roll of mounting tape, then release. Yeah, I have one of the ThermaWeb ones. I just recently got, you know, that big roll that's like this big. I need to get that out. So Cheryl just said a few clear gems like water droplets. That could be cool. Let me grab a few. Let's grab my pile. And friends, I still have not done anything about getting my gems in any kind of order. Let's see what I got. I got these cute little disco ball ones. Oh, these are popping out. So let's go ahead and use these because they're just popping out. What's in here? Oh, these are pretty too. They're pretty much the same though. All right, I need to get my picker. Get the picker. The picker. Let's see. Maybe like a little, maybe some little droplets on little sequins. Like maybe let's pop, whoops. Maybe let's pop one on here. Maybe make it look like little, I don't know, like little droplets on little water droplets. Let's see what that looks like. If I can get them to stick. Let's take a peek. These are pretty clearish. Let's just drop them in and see what happens. I don't even know where I put my glue. That's too big. I kind of like it. I don't know. What's the verdict? What do we think? I kind of like this droplet here, but I'm not digging them up in the flower. So look at that. I'm just going to take them off of the flower and maybe put a little droplet, like a little tiny one here. Maybe like one right there. If I can get some cute little ones. Dewdrops. Yes, Geraldine suggested dewdrops. You know what, Geraldine? I know that I have some dewdrops in my stash. But I literally couldn't tell you where they are right now. Because I put them in that special place. Do we all know? Do we all have one of those places in our crafting area? The special place like me? Where you put things and you know that you're never going to find them again because you put them there so you would remember where it is, but you never do. And then you're all of a sudden cleaning something out. things one day. Oops. And then you find it and you're like, you know, it could be like 5 years later, right? A shoebox or a box or something. You're like, oh, there's those dewdrops I've been looking for 5 years and I've already bought and replaced. I know I'm not alone. I know I'm not alone. Okay, I'm kind of digging it. I'm going to let that dry. I can always flick it off if I don't like it. Now, I've stamped Speak Beautiful Things in obsidian on some watercolor paper. And guess what I'm going to do, friends? I am going to fussy cut it. I know this is going to create a bit of a stir, but I'm going to fussy cut it. I'm going to fussy cut it out. I usually don't do it, but I really want that organic shape. So I'm just going to go rogue. Now, I happen to like fussy cutting. I've talked about that quite a few times on the channel. I don't move the scissors. I move the paper when I fussy cut. Cheryl says she has several special places, but can't remember where those places are. Me either. Me either. I'm always fascinated when I find like a box, like in my basement, in storage, when I find a box and it's not marked, which is pretty much every box I own. And I open it up and it's like finding these things all over again. Just following the shape underneath here and just cutting. I'm going to cut a little straight, won't go up. And I find things and I'm like, wow, I kept this. What is this? Or, ooh, I kept this. It's time for this to go. Why did I keep this? Yeah. Kind of funny. Kind of funny. Okay, I'm just trimming, and just kind of trimming around. We're starting to make, in the Gina K line, we're starting to make dies for sentiments. Did that in last month's. Starting to keep that in mind when we're creating, which is kind of fun. Let's just kind of cut that off, that piece right there. Heidi said she did that with a full package of vellum. You know what? What is it about vellum, Heidi, that it disappears? Because I have the same issue. Yeah, I always do that with vellum. Like I get vellum because I need vellum, and then I lose vellum, buy new vellum, and then all of a sudden have tons of vellum. Geraldine just shared, I love fussy cutting too. I find it very calming. I do too. I find it very calming. Okay, I cut that sentiment out. I could barely hold it with my fingers. It's a little wonky right here, but you know what? I don't care. I'm going with it. And I think I want to put it right here. Just look at that little tail. Just wants to stick up. Let's go ahead and put a little dot of glue underneath. Pop that down. Okay, now I'm going to put the Speak Beautiful Things, and I kind of want it to, I'm not sure what I want it to do. I think I want it to go over a little bit. Let that U, I definitely don't want to cover my dots. Let's just commit. We're just going to commit. We're going to put it on and commit. If I can get my fingers on it. Here we go. Again, if I wasn't tweezer challenged, this would be easy. You know who's really good with the tweezers? Mindy Egan. She's so fantastic with the tweezers. If you ever watch any of her videos, she just uses the tweezers like constantly, all the time. And I'm like struggling to like do, you know, those tweezers that go back and forth, not just regular tweezers. All right, I'm digging this. I am loving the way this is looking. Yeet! Look at that. Super fun card. Lots of fun things going on. That sentiment, just cutting that sentiment out, just kind of goes with the organic nature we've got going on here. We've got this abstract feel. That dots just really dials up that whimsy there. And then we just kind of come across right here and draw our eye to the flower. Oh, I love it. And we did it all in an hour. Holy smokies. Okay, let me head back to the front camera. Slightly crooked. So Oh, it is? It probably is. Yeah, probably. I have to hold it this way to see. I don't know, the whole thing looks, I kind of dig it. I think what helps, what makes it look a little challenging is that the word beautiful is in, it's slanted. So it is kind of hard to really tell the difference between what's, if it's crooked or not. But good call, Gloria. Good call. Okay, friends. Hello. That was a super fun card. I really enjoyed making that. I hope you got a lot out of the watercolor technique. I know I do watercolor techniques on this channel every week, and they are sometimes repeating because we're learning, and the more you practice, the more you learn. And once you learn these techniques, you can do them over and over again, and you start to discover differences between them and how to do them a little bit differently. So I see everybody saying it's a beautiful card. Yay! I love it. I'm loving the way it looks. It's just kind of fun and whimsical, mashing up 2 stamp sets with the lots of dots, dies, just super, super fun. Okay. All right, friends. So if you, just a couple little, what I call the housekeeping things at the end of the video. If you are at all interested in finding out when I go live and you're not on my email list, I suggest you get on my email list. Now, I send an email once a week, sometimes twice if I have a replay. And in that email, I share when I'm going live, when I have new classes launching, discounts, like all the things. I'm never really 100% sure if everybody sees everything I post in social media. I try to post in all the places to try to get it out to everybody in the places where you might see it. But sometimes it doesn't get there. But sometimes you don't see it because Facebook wants to show you a picture of a cat instead, or a dog. At least that's what it shows me all the time. Lots of cat memes. But if you're at all interested, you can subscribe to my email list. That link is in the description below. Again, all the supplies I used today, with the exception of watercolor, are listed below in the description. If you were interested in the watercolor that I used, that brand was called Da Vinci. It's made in California. Really great company and a really affordable high-end watercolor. Maybe we'll talk about them a little bit more on another live. Okay. Also, friends, I do have a link down below in the description for the freebies that were available to you for this brand new stamp set. And I also have, if you missed the live launch, I have a video on my channel that walks through this brand new stamp set, Speak Beautiful Things. I have a free card idea sheet download, and I had a bonus free download this month for a digital die cut files for the chamomile flower. And this is super fun. Just love it. So if you have a digital die cutter like a Silhouette, a Cricut, what's the other one? Scan and cut, those kinds of machines. You can access those files for free and cut them out, cut that chamomile flower out on any kind of medium you want and have some fun with it. Okay. All right. I'm seeing a couple Easter blessings for everyone. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. This is Easter weekend. Tomorrow's Good Friday. I am sending you all into the weekend to craft your joy. If you're watching this live right now or on the replay, I hope you have a fantastic Easter weekend. And I will be back next week at my regular time, which will be Friday. The reason why I bumped up to Thursday was because of Good Friday. But it turns out there's a lot of videos happening today, and Gina is going to be going live in about a half an hour. So if you want to watch Gina's, I want to get out of the way so that you guys can watch her video too. Okay, friends, thanks so much for joining me. It means a great deal to me that you're taking time out of your day to watch this super fun tutorial. And I hope you have a great weekend. And if you have any questions along the way, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Have a great day, friends, and I'll see you next week.